Good day to all of the participants, especially to the session chair who is assigned to the new normal category. I am Benjie Magpulong, a teacher at Initaw Central School, Initaw South District. I am a product of Initaw College and a graduate of the course Bachelor of Elementary Education, major in General Education. I graduated from my master's degree at St. Peter's College, Iligan City. The title of my study is Learning Motivation During COVID-19 Pandemic and the Academic Performance of the Grade 5 Learners in Initaw District. The following are the rationale of my study. COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted activities across various sectors, including education. Schools all over the world need to change their learning approach to adapt to the new normal. The Philippine educational system has embarked on a modular distance learning approach. Motivation is a desire to learn, try, work, and persevere. It is a meaningfulness, value, and the benefit that an academic task has to the learner. Motivation is the key to a learner's school success. It is a driving force behind successful learning. According to Gridler 2004, for learners to be motivated, he or she needs to have a positive attitude towards learning. I choose to conduct this study because it is one of the pressing issues during the implementation of the modular distance learning approach brought about by COVID-19 pandemic. Learners' drive to learn is critical to consider, especially now that they are studying and learning at home, and there are numerous factors that can influence their learning motivation. This study aimed to determine the learning motivation during the COVID-19 pandemic in relation to the academic performance of the Grade 5 learners in Initaw Central School. Perception on the COVID-19 pandemic was likewise explored to find out its role in learners' learning motivation and academic performance. This is the schematic diagram. This study is mainly anchored in the following theory. First, operant conditioning theory. Second, social learning theory. Third, protection motivation theory. Fourth, goal setting theory. And lastly, the two-factor model of motivation. Research methods. Explanatory correlational research design was used in my study. It is the extent to which two or more variables co-vary, where variance or change in one variable is reflected in a variance of change in the other, by Criswell 2012, page 621. I conducted my research at Initaw Central School, Initaw, Misamis Oriental. Respondents and sampling design. Selected through stratified random sampling and Slovene formula. The respondents of this study were the Grade 5 learners of Initaw Central School who were officially enrolled during the school year 2020-2021. It comprises 63.80% of the total number of 221 in 7 sections, namely excellent, eloquent, enthusiastic, eminent, efficient, explorative, and empowered. The questionnaire on learning motivation that Regina M. Shah 2016 developed was adopted with modifications. There are 3 parts comprise the research instrument. Part 1, on respondents' demographic profile. Part 2, on the perceptions on learning motivation during COVID-19 pandemic. And lastly, Part 3 on learning motivation level. These are the procedures for gathering the data. First, securing permission to conduct the study. Second, distribution of survey questionnaire together with the module. Third, gathering of data. And lastly, data analysis and interpretation. The following statistical tools were used in analyzing the data. Frequency and percentage. Second, mean and standard deviation. And third, person's product moment correlation. Table 1. Mean scores on perception of respondents' learning motivation during COVID-19 pandemic. Comparing the two categories of perception of learning motivation during the pandemic, the enhanced learning motivation indicators outweighed the reduced learning motivation. This implied that respondents' learning motivation was perceived to be increased amidst fear of the COVID-19 disease outbreaks and its effect on the learning motivation and the change in teaching approach. Table 2. Consolidated findings on the learning motivation level. Results show that both intrinsic and extrinsic motivation indicators were rated most of the time or high by the learners, with a mean score of 3.90 and 3.50 respectively. These findings indicated that most of the respondents were motivated both intrinsically and extrinsically even in this time of pandemic, although intrinsic motivation was higher than extrinsic. Table 3. Academic performance of the grade 5 learner respondents during the school year 2020-2021. Their overall academic performance during the said period was satisfactory with an average grade of 82.94 and standard deviation of 2.41. These results implied that 3 out of 4 learners, or 3/4, had satisfactory performance. Using the person's product moment correlation test analysis, results as shown in Table 4 registered that it was only the intrinsic motivation that was significantly related to the learner respondent's perception of learning motivation. This implied that perception of enhanced learning motivation during the pandemic could be accounted for the high intrinsic motivation level of respondents. Based on the table, results showed that the learning motivation of the learners was not significantly correlated with their academic performance. Especially, both the intrinsic and extrinsic motivations of the learners were not significantly related to their academic performance. Both categories of motivation did not contribute significantly to the learner's academic performance. Results in this study further indicated that students with higher intrinsic and extrinsic motivation could not be expected always to obtain higher academic performance. As reflected in Table 6, the learner's perception of COVID-19 pandemic and the academic performance were not significantly related at 0.05 significance level. This result suggested that how learners perceive the COVID-19 pandemic did not influence their academic performance. Contrary to Fritz-Heider-Lohans' 1995 agreement that the determinants of human behavior were the perceived and not the actual. As postulated under the protection motivation theory by Ronald Rogers, the learner's perception of COVID-19 during the pandemic may have been influenced by their fear of getting infected by COVID-19. Bandura's social learning theory postulating that social environmental factors spanning cognitive and behavioral frameworks. The results suggested that learners would achieve their best work in a quiet, comfortable, and space devoted to learning, indicating certain deficiencies of Herzberg's two-factor model of motivation. The following are the sources used in my study. The researcher proposed an intervention program to address the low academic performance of the grade 5 learner respondents. Title: This is the program matrix of activities. During the conduct of my study, I observed that there are more than 1 or 2 variables that need to be addressed in order to improve the reliability and validity of the results. Many factors including self-efficacy, self-determination, goal setting, learning environment, and learners' physical and emotional well-being must be considered in terms of the impact on their learning motivation and their academic performance. Thank you for listening to and watching my presentation. I hope you gain something from my study. God bless everyone.